very good morning to one and all. Esteemed industry leaders, distinguished guests, respected faculty members, and my dear friends. On behalf of entire SPJIMR family, I, Shweta,
and I, Vimal,
welcome you all to Samavesh 2019.
Samavesh is SPJIMR's annual industry academia conclave. This event is organized by the students of the postgraduate program in management. It is a platform where eminent thought leaders and academia discuss and debate contemporary issues in various fields. To give you a brief introduction of the PGPM class of 2019, this is the 15th batch of PGPM program. The participants come from diverse backgrounds. All of them come with industry experience and domain expertise. This batch has 143 participants with an average work experience of 7 years. We come from 110 different companies across 14 sectors. This inherent diversity boosts peer learning and development of skills.
Moving on, I would like to quote a few headlines that are making news these days. IBM's AI search engine Discovery is helping enterprises by enabling smart decision-making and has been named as the leader in AI search by Forrester. Every industry must consider itself at risk from the powerful ripple effects caused by the disruptive shift of the driverless cars. Volkswagen Group premium brand Audi now describes itself as a premium digital car company. This only tells us that we are living in an era of digital disruption where innovation is the way for businesses to survive in this competitive environment. Artificial intelligence is the pillar of digital technologies and currently holds a market size of approximately $40 billion globally. Thus, it is crucial to debate and discuss aggressively about the impact of artificial intelligence on driving business innovation, which is the theme for today's event, and we have speakers with diverse backgrounds and rich industry experience to share their views on the same.
We will begin the event by a keynote speech by Professor Nilendra Pawar. Professor Pawar is our core faculty in operations and supply chain area and the chairperson of the postgraduate program in management. We request Professor Pawar to come on the stage and address the audience.
Good morning. And a warm welcome to all of you, and especially our guests who have been kind enough to take their time out for this event. And as you all know, a strong industry interface has always been our differentiator as SPJIMR. We have many faculty who come from industry background. We have many industry leaders who come here and co-teach courses with us. And Samavesh is just one step in the same tradition where we invite industry leaders and help us explore contemporary business practices in management. With that said, I think the topic today is pretty exciting. I believe AI/ML is transforming our lives, and based on my conversation with with our guests, I think it's happening faster than we can keep pace with it. And many of the persons who are working in the same technology themselves are probably not fully abreast of what our changes are being brought about. And therefore, it's all the more important that as future managers, all of us know about the various possibilities and the status of technology, which is under development in this area. So having said that, I think I look forward to this session, and we can kind of start with the speakers.
Thank you, sir. We are sure this beginning has paved the way for a wonderful symposium ahead.
It is now time for something we have been eagerly waiting for. It's time to call upon the stage our first speaker of the day. She currently heads the modern workplace for the Unicorn, retail and growth verticals for Microsoft India, and has served multiple roles spanning across partner alliances, enterprise sales, cloud services, consumer channel and devices. Her strategic responsibilities include enabling customers to achieve higher levels of efficiency through modernization of their workplace using everyday artificial intelligence and modern devices. She has led CMC and Oracle Financial Services for local as well as international markets. She joined Microsoft India in May 2000 and has over 20 years of experience in IT industry. She has won multiple awards in Microsoft and is a two-time winner for the prestigious Circle of Excellence Award for her outstanding work. A computer engineer by profession, a Sudoku enthusiast, and a mother of 17-year-old who never stops to surprise her how kids can use technology. She is here to share her insights on using artificial intelligence to drive accessibility. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Charmaine Lewis-Wali.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to present to all of you out here. I'm really, really happy to be here because whatever I'm going to speak about in the next 30-odd minutes or so is something that's very, very dear to my heart. So let me just... So your professor spoke a lot about having business innovation, right, and artificial intelligence to drive business innovation. I'm going to slightly deviate from the business innovation piece. And as I said, I want to talk about something which is very, very dear to my heart, which is really about creating a more inclusive world utilizing AI. And why creating a more inclusive world is really what you must be thinking about at this point in time. So let's look at a couple of things with regard to Microsoft, right? I joined Microsoft, as the introduction said, way back in 2000. There was a reason why I joined Microsoft, because if you saw my earlier companies that I worked for, it was primarily in the financial services space. The mission of Microsoft, right, which was really to enable people to realize their full potential, that was something that completely inspired me. I couldn't understand, what was this company trying to achieve. I couldn't figure out, because most companies, their mission statement always says that I want to drive business revenue, we want to strive for excellence, etc. But here was a company with a very simple mission statement to help people realize their potential. And that's what actually made me join the organization. And then when Satya Nadella came on board, he kind of expanded that whole mission, which was to empower every person and every organization on the planet to do more. And now when you start to think about that word, every person, right? Every person doesn't mean people like you and me who are fully physically abled. It means a larger and a broader audience who is not like you and me, and we still have to get them in as a part of our entire world. And that is actually what the topic is that I'm going to speak about today. So we have to look at every person in every context, in everything that they do, in terms of being able to go ahead and empower them. So to help you understand this, right, as to why I chose this as my topic, I want to do a little experiment with all of you all today. I know the lady said don't take out your mobile phones and put them on silent, but I do want you to take out your mobile phones for just 2 minutes for this little experiment that we are going to do. So all of you all with your mobile phones in your hand. Go to your SMS or any of the editors, the word editors or anything that you have with you in your hand. Everyone ready? Now shut your eyes. Close your eyes, close it really tight. Okay? And just type out the statement saying, I want to create a more inclusive world, with your eyes closed. All done? Fantastic. Open your eyes. Anyone wants to read? What is it that they wrote on their keyboards? You want to give a mic to someone so that we can just get this going quickly? Any one person who wants to stand up and read what they put up on their keyboard? You want to read what you put out on your keyboard?
I don't know what language that is.
And that's my point really, right? The fact that when you think about disability, right, there are a lot of things that are not obviously immediately perceptible to you. So if you look at what the word disability really means, right, and I just want to do a little bit of context setting out here. Earlier people thought about disability as something that was wrong with the person. But over a period of time, right, if you look at the World Health Organization, they've actually changed what the definition of disability means. The definition of disability is now really about the fact that a person actually has a challenge in terms of interacting with the physical environment or the social environment or the cognitive environment. It's nothing wrong with the person per se, right? And so now when you start to think about this new definition of disability, that there's nothing wrong with the person, but it's really about the fact that the environment needs to be controlled in which the person is operating in, it starts to open up a tremendous amount of opportunities and possibilities. And that is really what we're going to talk about today out here. So let's take a look at this, right? A lot of the disabilities, as I said, are not really visible. So you see the gentleman there in the picture, and this is really what he is, right? And when you saw the first picture, right, this would never have occurred to you in your mind. You just see a person busy smiling over there, but you never really understood that the person was visually disabled. And there are different types of disabilities that are essentially there. So some are permanent kind of disabilities, where you see the lady in the picture out here, she basically had her arm amputated. The others are temporary, and this is situations that we kind of find ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And the temporary situations could be you've had a little fracture, so for some time you're kind of in a different situation where you can't interact with the environment in the normal manner in which you need it to go ahead and do. Some cases are situational. So think about the fact multiple times you've been carrying very heavy bags when you've gone grocery shopping. And now you've tried to go ahead and navigate or get into your car, and you're trying to do everything with one hand, or you're trying to operate your mobile phone at the same time with just a single hand. And you've kind of been challenged, and that's a disability as well, right? And so the question really is then how are we starting to think about all of these various exclusions that are there, because you really can't afford to exclude this entire segment, because that segment could be you and me as well in various points in our entire life. So the reason why you should care, right? The reason why you should care is this. If you look at the data today, the data shows us that there are 7.2 billion as a population across the world. But of that 7.2 billion population, there's over 1 billion population who has some form of disability or the other. So what does that mean for you? It really means that 1 in 7 people who you meet will have some form of a disability. And that 1 in 7 person who you meet, how are you going to basically go ahead and impact his life, his or her life? And that is what we are going to be focused on today in terms of how you go ahead and create that impact. And why is it important to create that impact? The reason why it's important to create that impact is the World Bank basically shows us that this particular segment is more prone to poverty as compared to any other segment. Because it's more prone to poverty, imagine what it's going to do for your taxes, right? At some point in time, it's going to start hitting us somewhere or the other. The second thing is that they are less likely to be hired as compared to a normal average able person. But today, if I look at technology, right, and the kind of advances that have happened in technology, technology can actually be used to make a big, big difference in their lives. Technology can actually be used to get them to a different state, offer them jobs, offer them education, offer them a whole bunch of services. And it actually neutralizes the level playing field for people with disabilities. So that's the reason why you need to be thinking about how do you include the segment of people into the work that you do. So now now that we've had the context with regard to disability, I want to shift on to the AI piece. Your professor already mentioned that AI is kind of transforming everything that we're currently doing today. But if you look at the pure play definition of AI, so AI is actually a whole bunch of technologies that have essentially come together to do 3 sets of things. The first is I want to perceive sounds and images, and then I learn from those sounds and images, right? And then I keep on learning, and I keep on looking at how all these various interactions are essentially happening. And then I start to go ahead and reason. And I reason because of the large amounts of data that I have, and now with that reasoning, I can actually start to go ahead and identify patterns. So if you had to broadly look at AI, these are the 3 things that AI essentially goes ahead and does, right? And so at the bottom line of it is AI essentially amplifies human capability. That's really what AI goes ahead and does. But a lot of the AI today is still not known. A lot of the AI today we are still in the process of discovering. So if I had to look at, from our perspective, as to what is it that Microsoft is currently doing, these are the set of accessible technologies that we are basically building not only within our own products, but together in partnership with a whole bunch of the industry in terms of enabling all of these with artificial intelligence. So if I look at vision, for example, the things that we have done with regard to vision is really about helping people read better with screen narrators that are already built into the Windows operating system. You have larger screens, and it's really focused on people who are fully visually impaired, either they are colorblind or they have low vision. It includes all of that. When I look at learning, right, again, learning is a very, very big challenge. There are kids who've got dyslexia who cannot read, and therefore, how do you actually enable them to go ahead or empower them to go ahead and be able to go ahead and improve on their learning skills? There is mobility. Again, artificial intelligence plays a very, very big role in terms of helping people who've got spinal disorders, who are paraplegics, quadriplegia. All of these come into play in terms of artificial intelligence. And then there's neurodiversity. So neurodiversity, we basically use things like Dictate as a tool, which we built into our productivity suite. Or if you think about the login that you saw me doing over here, where it basically utilized my face as a recognition, so I don't need to type passwords, etc. That also is something which we are doing with regard to neurodiversity. And mental health is really about, again, bringing your attention span. There are kids who are diagnosed and people who are diagnosed with ADHD, etc. So that's where we are embedding artificial intelligence to essentially help all of these categories of people to become more productive in terms of their day-to-day lives. So now what I want to do is, you've seen the technologies that are there, and I actually want to play a series of videos now which would essentially show you as to how each of those technologies have been used. Can we have the volume? So the first video that I'm going to play you is about a gentleman called Shakib Sheikh. He's basically a programmer at Microsoft. He's with the Microsoft research team. He's been blind from the age of 7. And this is his experience in terms of an app called Seeing AI, which I was just sharing with your professor before our talk. So he is one of the creators of the Seeing AI app. So let me play the video.
I'm Shakib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7. And shortly after that, I went to a school for the blind. And that's where I was introduced to talking computers. And that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives. And one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do, but artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before. And in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
So that's a great example of how you utilize and embed AI into the vision. So the vision piece of AI is really what came into play out here. And again, the image processing that's there. And all of this is really possible because of whatever we have in the cloud today, because there's this huge compute power that we are able to actually go ahead and access. The second video that I'm going to play you is, just give me a second. So this video is basically about a gentleman called Steve Gleason. He was one of the NFL players. If people love football, American football, then you would know about NFL. So he was a really physically abled and physical bodied person. And then a couple of years back, he got struck down with ALS. ALS is, if all of you know Stephen Hawking, it's the similar disease. It basically kind of eats through your muscles of the body. You're not in a position to go ahead and support yourself. And Steve reached out to Microsoft and he asked Microsoft to basically help him create a wheelchair that he could control with the use of his eyes. So as a first step, this is the initial stages of that video, which I'm going to show you. It was really about us using the power of AI and Windows to essentially help Steve go ahead and navigate and speak to people, which was the first step. And today we've actually gone ahead and created a virtual joystick inside his wheelchair. And if he looks left or he looks right, his wheelchair automatically just moves left or right and takes him wherever he needs to go. And that's actually making Steve a lot more independent. So let me just roll this video so you get a sense again in terms of the hardware that came into play, the visualization, the visual perception that came into play with regard to AI in this video.
Those field goals, look out, right through, a pick block by Steve Gleason, touchdown, New Orleans!
It's kind of unbelievable that Steve has a statue.
The statue is not about football. It's a symbol of the people in this region who chose to return and rebuild. I have ALS. With ALS, a person loses the ability to move and breathe on their own. I communicate verbally with the eye tracking technology.
I am Michelle Veriska Gleason. I am the wife of Steve Gleason and the mother of Rivers Gleason. Team Gleason is a foundation that Steve and I started a year after Steve was diagnosed.
Part of our mission is to raise awareness of this disease and specifically to help other people with ALS to live their lives as best they can.
Communication is a key element to our quality of life. The eye tracking technology runs on Windows, and Surface was the latest product we have discovered where it was enabled.
All day he's on his computer, whether he's tweeting or he's speaking. It's powerful enough for him, which is huge. I think fatherhood means almost everything to Steve.
Rivers, are you showing off?
With Rivers, it's created a special bond that many fathers and sons will never have.
He's able to get some physical time with Rivers because he'll climb up on his lap. Steve, when they're watching movies together, can talk back and forth to Rivers about what's going on. And the time that he has with Rivers on his lap, I think it's safe to say, are his favorite times.
They say your eyes are the window to your soul. I suppose this means that technology allows me to bare my soul. Although I am hopeful for a medical cure for ALS, I have always said, until there is one, technology is my cure.
So that again was another great example of how artificial intelligence came into play and a challenge that was thrown at us, right, that actually landed up in us innovating on eye gazing and eye tracking technology. And the last video that I want to play now is really about an 8-year-old kid. He was diagnosed with dyslexia when he was in kindergarten. And his mother went through this really painful process of trying to figure out as to how do I get my child to read. because obviously other kids were way, way, way ahead of him. And let's just roll the video so you see what AI basically does for him.
The fact that over the summer, that a child can go from basically nothing to having the world at their fingertips and being able to read and being willing to try, it's more than a miracle. I think it's more than anybody can expect. Even in kindergarten, Anjay was incredibly bright, but he couldn't read. The difficulty reading continued to second grade. Shortly after Anjay was diagnosed with dyslexia, a friend of mine said she saw something online about a tool from Microsoft for kids with dyslexia. I made an appointment at our local Microsoft store. We went in, they downloaded learning tools, asked Anjay to sit down, and my son read. It was amazing. Anjay, in that moment, conquered this fear and realized that he could access something that had been inaccessible to him. I saw my little boy read and knew that here was an answer, that here was something that could change his life. Microsoft Learning Tools has been a miracle in our lives. He could get everything in the same font. He was able to lengthen his spaces between words, and that was amazing and so simple. Anjay's been happier, more confident. He was living his life where the written word was an enemy, and now it's a thing to be conquered.
I think that's another great example of speech processing and all the artificial intelligence technology that we essentially used out here. I think that video is very, very dear to my heart. So let me get back over here now and show you a couple of things in terms of how you can actually go ahead and use accessibility on a day-to-day basis, right? So one of the key things from a Microsoft standpoint that we've gone ahead and done is really to go ahead and bring about the ease of use in terms of readers, right? So if someone's visually impaired and they
you're using
essentially
OneNote
need
in
to
your
hear
classroom
something,
pretty heavily, and a new tool that you started utilizing is the Learning Tools plugin. Can you tell me a little bit about?
So I'm here in the Edge browser, and one of the key things that we've gone ahead and done on the Edge browser is basically bring accessibility in. So if you do a right click, what you see out here is something called as read aloud.
Rated by oceans,
and the moment
the
I
distance
start
at the
doing
time
read
was of
aloud,
the order of
it
10,000
starts
miles.
to read the content
Similarly,
on the page.
today, space exploration
Now,
is not
this
for the
is
faint
really,
of heart.
really
The
useful
distances
for
that a spacecraft travels is of the order.
who essentially are not in a position to go ahead and read. They essentially want to hear, and you're doing everything with the click of a single button. So while you have screen narrators and everything else that are there for visually impaired, this is something that we built into the browser itself. So now you don't need to think twice about if you had an issue, you can actually just do a right click and the accessibility is completely there. And here's another really simple example. This was the presentation deck that I put together for you guys. But if you look over here and you go into review, you have something called as check accessibility. And this is there throughout our entire productivity suite. So when you do the click, when you click on check accessibility, it actually starts to show you as to which places in either your Word document or your Excel file or your PowerPoint presentation is going to be difficult for someone with a visual disability to go ahead and understand. And if you right click on any of the pictures that are out here, there's something called alt text that basically pops up. And you can use alt text to go ahead and put a narration. The alt text screen also lets you take a description from the computer. So again, it's using the power of the intelligent cloud of Microsoft to basically go ahead and generate a description for you basis what it sees of the image out there. So we're making it really, really simple. Now, keep in mind, AI is a learning tool, right? It's still in learning, it's still in progression. Yes, it's getting a lot more better. There's about 80 to 90% of accuracy, but we are still not fully there from a context standpoint. The ability is also there for you to basically be able to go ahead and put your own lines in there to just go ahead and check that anyone who's visually disabled and they are reading your presentation or listening to your presentation, they're actually able to get all of these kind of snippets. There is something else. I wasn't able to go ahead and demo it today because I didn't have that piece of code. But if I was speaking to you right now, you would actually see live captions coming across. And this again is really useful for people who are deaf, people who can't understand the pace at which I'm speaking at, because all the subtitles and the captions automatically come up. And again, you're utilizing the power of AI to deliver speech processing at this really, really rapid rate in terms of that. The AI is also able to understand multiple languages. So I could have actually set a language out here during my presentation and said that I want my captions to be in Hindi, and whatever I was saying in English would actually be converted on the fly in Hindi. So that's the power of AI that we've basically gone ahead and brought into all of our tools. With that, I would like to end my presentation. I hope that I have given you a little bit of thought in terms of how you can look at innovation a little differently in terms of making a significant impact to that 7th person who you're going to meet and who's going to transform your lives. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an enriching and interactive session.
Thank you.
You have introduced us to a very different dimension of AI in which AI is really transforming lives. We are now open the forum for question and answers. I request the audience to raise their hand and our volunteers shall bring the microphones to you. Please keep the questions brief.
I've either left you all stunned or given you all too much of food for thought.
Share something short.
So there are a few things that I was personally involved in, which is why I said accessibility is something very close to my heart. As a part of the devices team a couple of years ago, I actually had the opportunity to work with a gentleman called Dr. Sam Taraporwala. I was running the Windows Phone business at that point in time, and one of the things we were trying to figure out is how do you bring accessibility into the Windows phones, because we still had some distance to cover in terms of that. At that point in time, this was, I'm talking about somewhere in 2012 kind of a time frame, 2011, 2012. The number of disabled population, visually impaired population in India is 12.2 million. And imagine that market. If I had to just purely look at it from my Windows Phone standpoint, right? That was a 12.2 million captive audience for me to go ahead and sell Windows Phones, and if I got the accessibility right. So that's actually where my journey with accessibility really started. But the other thing that I also see is the fact that it's an incredible pool of talent that's out there, a really, really incredible pool of talent. So within Microsoft itself, I think you saw one of the engineers, Shakib Sheikh. Within Microsoft India, we have a gentleman by the name of Sriram Parthasarathy. He is visually impaired, but you'll be surprised. He actually runs our online digital marketing channels. And his responsibility is to review and vet content that gets put up on all of our various portals. In India, the campaigns that we essentially go ahead and run. You wouldn't believe that someone with that kind of a disability would actually be doing this, but he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant at it. And in all the interactions that I've had with Shri, right, I would have never realized that he's visually impaired. And for me, that is a very, very big eye-opener. I was working with New India Assurance as a part of the work that I do, and they are also pretty focused on disability. And we had a couple of visually impaired. One of the ladies was visually impaired, the other one was handicapped. They came across to our office to actually understand how to use technologies better. The drive, the determination, the passion to basically succeed. They don't want to be considered as charity cases, right? They just want to be included as a part of everything that you do. They really want to earn their way in the world. And the lady, one of the ladies out there, she was actually the topper in Wellington Institute in her MBA program. So she was highly, highly qualified. And that actually is really about the incredible talent pool that you're kind of missing out. Because when you look at a lot of the things that I showed you here in the videos, right, from a Microsoft standpoint, we may have missed the bus if such kind of people had not reached out to us. right? And as I said, that's the huge segment. And what I was sharing with your professor earlier, there was a research that was done by Accenture, which basically said that organizations who embrace accessibility, you actually see their revenues and profitability about 25 to 30% higher than the rest of the peers which are there in the market. So it's a very, very big drive from a Microsoft standpoint in terms of what we are doing with regard to accessibility. Now, from an India perspective, right, the question that you asked, there's a lot of things that we are doing with regard to AI. So there's AI which we're working together with the government. There's things that we are doing with regard to agriculture. There's things that we are doing. I was just telling them that we recently tied up with ISB to offer AI as a part of the curriculum. There's a lot of free code that's available on our website. So if you go to microsoft.com/AI, there's a lot of free code. The cognitive services that I showed you in bulk of the videos, it's available out there. There's free code which is available on GitHub. You can just take all of that code and you can embed it in applications that you're looking to go ahead and build.
Yes. Being done on the predictive part of the healthcare disabilities, something, any work which is being done globally?
There is quite a lot. There's quite a lot. So we have a lot of teams who are working in the healthcare space. There's a lot of stuff that's working on the genome data with Microsoft Research. There's a lot of things which are going on with regard to facial recognition. The Steve Gleason video which I showed you, right? As I said, it first started off as basically helping him empower to do speech. Together with the devices. The Surface device that I have here is basically the same device that he has attached on his wheelchair. But it's gone to the next level now in terms of the whole eye tracking. So he's got a virtual joystick which is now there, which basically his eyes used to go ahead and navigate. So the Steve Gleason project started roughly in around 2014. We're now in 2019, so it's taken us 4 years to get there in terms of the eye tracking technology that he's able to do to control his wheelchair and everything else. So there is a lot. There is a lot of stuff that Microsoft is basically doing with regard to this.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful session. So just wanted to ask that what kind of partnerships do you have with medical institutes to support your research in further innovation in this field?
Got it. So there is, I didn't put up that slide, but we actually have something called as the AI for Accessibility program. It's a 5-year program that actually got instituted last year where we put a funding of $25 million. That funding is really used to go ahead and drive accessibility programs to amplify human impact. This is really about doing knowledge transfer, getting into partnerships, helping people create new assistive kind of technologies, utilizing artificial intelligence. So that program is very much there in place. We have partnered with a lot of universities in the US. From an India standpoint, I don't think we've started on that journey as yet. US is a little more mature in terms of where we've gone with these partnerships. We partnered with Craig Hospital. There is a wide variety of hospitals, specifically places where you need assistive technologies, right? Those are essentially the institutions that we've gone ahead and reached out to. Microsoft is also part of something which is called as the Smart City Initiative. Now, in smart cities, right, it's smart cities for all. So in India, we already have the smart city program where we are doing things with regard to lighting and sanitation and a whole bunch of other things. When you look at a smart city is not meant just for the physically able, right? It's also for this segment of society. So there are very few players which are there in that space. Microsoft is essentially one of them. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's called the G3CR, if I'm not mistaken. That's the initiative which we are a part of. IBM is also a part of this initiative. I think Adobe is also a part of the initiative as well. But there are very few companies who are actually a part of something like this.
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi.
So in India, generally accessibility is directly related to affordability. How is Microsoft dealing with this?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. As I said, a lot of the things that you see over here, right, are things that we kind of baked into the product itself. You've given me a wonderful segue because one of the key concerns when I was having a discussion with the team from New India Assurance, so JAWS is a screen reader, and the cost of JAWS is what they were telling me is like really prohibitive. they actually had to upgrade to a newer version because from a Microsoft standpoint, we moved to Windows 10. And their earlier version of JAWS wasn't working too well for them with regard to Windows 10. So they obviously had to go ahead and do an upgrade of the screen reader. So yes, it is prohibited, but I think that's something that the government really needs to go ahead and intervene. Because today you have a single distributor which is there across the whole of Asia Pacific that basically sells JAWS. So it's kind of a monopolistic market in some extent to that. So you don't have too much of competition in the space. So yeah, there is something that we really need to be looking at in a different way to make it a lot more affordable. But the things which I showed you, right, the Edge browser, that's something which is like completely free. The Microsoft Office suite that I showed you, the PowerPoint presentations, etc. The online versions are completely free, and you still get all of the goodness of the AI which is baked into that. So those are things that you could actually go ahead and utilize even as of today. So that doesn't take away from anything in terms of what you're going to be doing with regard to the technology. But I think the pieces where hardware is involved, right? Those are some of the places where, yes, there's still significant advances that need to happen.
Just taking from what the previous question was, it's a fantastic technology, and I think Microsoft has been at the forefront in embedding it in the browser.
Yeah.
But for it to be really impacting lives, it needs to be embedded in a whole lot of workplaces, shopping malls, maybe household equipment, home environment. So how has been the response from the industry or the makers of various products, like manufacturing industries or people who set up factories, in terms of incorporating these technologies and making their environments more inclusive?
Got it. So that's a great question that you've asked. I think from the home, when we look at it, right, because from a Microsoft standpoint, we are largely focused on the enterprise. And it's really about, what do we go ahead and do with regard to the workplace and then, your surrounding areas, etc. So there are elements of it that we are doing. We are clear in our mind that we want to have the intelligent cloud, and we want to be able to take the data that we are gathering through the intelligent cloud and actually have that data be utilized by people back again on the ground. So we obviously then need to go ahead and do a lot of partnerships in terms of whatever either the manufacturing industry is working on. So if I had to go back to the presenter, what she said, the smart car piece, right? So we have done smart cars basically with Tata Motors. We did the whole connected car together with them. If you see the Xbox game that we essentially went and launched, you had the Tata Motor car, which was the connected car actually over there, and it had 5 million downloads as a part of the Xbox game. So yes, we do need to go ahead and partner with a whole bunch of people, but no, we are not going to get into the actual hardware space in terms of building out all of these IoT devices. We have come out with technology though. There's a new technology called Azure Sphere, which is basically a really thin Linux-based operating system. Yes, I'm saying Linux from Microsoft, so it's not a Windows-based operating system. It's a Linux-based operating system that you can basically use to go ahead and create your IoT devices. And that OS, again, is completely free. So that's what we are doing from an IoT standpoint in terms of letting OEMs and other people from the industry take the technology and then go ahead and embed it in everything that they do.
So we talked about smart cities, how Microsoft is engaging with smart cities as well. What about smart homes? Like Indian market is growing at a very good pace in industry of smart homes. And Microsoft itself has many devices in this industry. How is Microsoft looking into entering this industry in a bigger level?
The phone industry, we were in the phone industry and we got out of the phone industry. But while that has happened, right, we have continued to go ahead and innovate very strongly on iOS as well as on Android. In fact, I think we have done a large amount of innovation on iOS and on Android. Some of it pertaining to accessibility. So the very first video which I showed you with Shakib Sheikh, there's an app called Seeing AI. You can download that app. Right now it's available only for the iOS phone, but you could download that app and actually play around with that app and see what it actually goes ahead and does for you. There is face transformation, face swapping. There's a lot of all of those AI capabilities that we built out as separate apps which have been published by Microsoft Research on both of the platforms. So we are building technologies for that particular platform per se. Will we get back into the phone business unless we come out with something really, really cool which is going to disrupt the market? I don't think we're going to get back into the phone business again.
Thank you so much, audience, for such enthusiastic participation. On behalf of entire SPJIMR family, we extend a heartfelt thank you to you, ma'am, for taking out time to visit our campus and share your views on how we can make this world an inclusive place using artificial intelligence. And as the video said, this is just the beginning. On behalf of SPJIMR and PGPM program, I request Preshta Sohal to present ma'am with a small token of gratitude. Thank you so much, ma'am. And we look forward to having you in the campus again.
In modern society, we have too many options to choose from due to prevalence of internet. Let's understand about how recommendation system helps consumers converge their choices and help business achieve better customer centricity, which is a big challenge. I would like to call upon stage students from PGPM class of 2019, Akshata, Nayak, and Suraj Chakraborty to present on the topic Intelligent Recommender System for Supporting E-Commerce Decisions. Let's hear it from them, guys.
Good morning, everyone. So today we've been talking about intelligence, and we know that practically no domain has been left untouched when we talk about artificial intelligence. We've all used these platforms like Jabong, Myntra, Amazon, Netflix, and we've been using it on a day-to-day basis. So what is it about these platforms that encourage us to keep on going back to them? Well, to answer that question, it's something got to do with how these platforms understand us as users. They understand our preferences and recommend what we like. So that makes making a choice so much easier. So I, Akshata, Nayak, and Suraj Chakraborty will be talking about intelligent recommender systems for supporting e-commerce decisions. So first things first, let's get our basics straight. What exactly is a recommender system? So imagine you going to Shoppers Stop, right, and shopping around and not knowing what exactly to purchase. And a sales representative comes in and helps you make a choice. He helps you make a choice by understanding what you prefer to buy, and that influences your purchase decision. This is exactly what a recommender system does in the online world. It's an online salesman that helps customer make a better choice from the myriad variety of possibilities that are there. As a business, why exactly do I need it? For example, let's take an example. You log into Amazon thinking of buying one product, but I'm sure many of us have ended up buying so many of them. So what exactly has Amazon done? Well, it has given us a recommendation system which encouraged us to buy more. And how did it exactly do it? It helped us make an informed choice by giving us recommendations and unlocking potential to over 10 million products that it has in its catalog. And what did it exactly do? It induced impulse buying, and it enabled cross-selling, which helps it grow as a business. So if I need to talk about recommender systems in applications, we interact with them, with businesses on a daily basis. For example, the course catalogs that we get, the recommendations on Coursera, or LinkedIn with its job recommendations. And as a final example, but this is not the last one, Spotify giving you playlists, recommended playlists based on your past browsing history. So how exactly are businesses achieving their outcomes? To give you a small example, Amazon has achieved around 35% of its revenue only from recommending products to its users. Netflix, right at the start, as a business, realized that it has only 60 to 90 seconds to hold on to a customer to be using its services. A customer will only browse through around 20 titles before he moves on. So what did Netflix do? It included a very strong recommendation system, and now it boasts of a year-on-year growth of around 32.3% when it comes to its consumer user base. Similar is the case with Spotify. So now let's look at the types of recommender systems and the challenges that are currently being faced in this area. Starting with the most basic one, the most popular strategy, which most of the e-commerce encompasses when it comes to new consumers coming onto its platform. It's called as what is trending. And it will basically tell you what the best sellers are in each category and what is trending now based on mass recommendations of what users all around are using. This is not very intelligent. Moving on, let's consider I'm buying a new mobile phone. More than 80% of the time, I would want to buy a phone case with it too. So how about going on a shopping website and it recommending me to buy this as a package? Wouldn't it make it life so much simpler? I do not have to explicitly go and search for a phone case. Well, this is market basket analysis for you. Moving ahead with content filtering. As an example, let me think, okay, that I love watching thriller as a genre. So how about Prime Video or Netflix recommending more and more thriller movies to me? It'll be more personalized to me as a user, and it'll be more interesting for me to go on and search for new content. This is exactly what content filtering does. It inspires recommendations based on your browser history. And last is the collaborative filtering. Sometimes it helps to know what people who have similar preferences and tastes when it comes to buying products with you are also doing. So for example, on YouTube, we always see this thing about, if you watch a particular channel time and again, what are other people watching? So after we've seen all of this, do you think all of this is intelligent enough? Well, we do not think so. So what exactly are the problems with these recommender systems? The first one is mass recommendations. Most of it is not exactly personalized and is highly inaccurate. Second, when we talk about new users coming and using platforms, it usually provides a very generic recommendation and not very personalized. We call it the cold start. And last but not the least, but which is the most important, is changing user preferences. As consumers, our needs change from time to time. What I probably bought a month ago is not what I would choose to buy the next month. So are recommendation systems actually taking this into account? Not exactly. So this is actually a major hindrance. So how exactly do we choose to solve these problems? But first, how do recommenders exactly work? So Suraj, how does it actually work?
Well, Akshata, the buzzwords of 21st century, AI and ML, that is the engine behind recommenders. So let me take you through how a particular machine learning system works with a recommender. So you have web users who come onto your website, they purchase products from your web page, and then slowly you understand that what kind of products are you selling. You build a database around it. You use that database to what you do is you train your artificial intelligence models. With this model, over a period of time, it gets more intelligent, it gathers the data, and it helps make better predictions whenever a new user comes to make a prediction, to make a recommendation. So Akshata talked about 3 specific issues: mass recommendation, changing preference, and cold start. So how is machine learning helping us fix these particular issues? So let's take an example. Say a feedback and training model which we have in a machine learning process. So what it does is basically when a customer comes to a web page, what is the business outcome? You hope that the particular customer gets converted with a purchase. So if that conversion is happening or not based on the recommendation you have given, that can help update your database, and accordingly it will help train your AI model further to improve and give better results in terms of your recommendation. So what you're doing is you're not giving a very generalized recommendation, but rather you're training your model to understand that each user is different and how you can give a more personalized recommendation for each and every of your users. So that is how you're handling the mass recommendation problem. What about the changing preferences? Well, customer customers change their preferences over time based on the trends and what is available, right? So this feedback mechanism and this training mechanism, what helps is it helps the model stay updated, stay intelligent enough to make better recommendation over a period of time and take care of the changing preferences of a customer. Okay, so we have handled two of the issues. What about the cold start? So what is a cold start? So like Akshata mentioned, cold start is, suppose you have a new user who has come to your web page. You don't know what that user is like. You don't know what the user preference is behind. How do you profile that user, and how do you make an intelligent, personalized recommendation to such an user without previous data? So see, the main issue here is the database, where you don't know you don't have sufficient information about this new user. So what we recommend in today's slide is a hybrid model, which is the new age of recommenders. In a hybrid model, what it basically does is, earlier we used to recommend only based on historical data, past data, and the trends around. You develop a pattern, and based on that, you hope that your recommender engine is providing a more personalized content to your customers. Well, in a hybrid model, what you're trying to do is you're trying to develop a context around the user. You are trying to gather more information about the user in terms of his name, age, gender, and you develop a profile around him. You understand what location he's logging in from, what is the time. So you build a context around him. Using this, you do a dynamic filtering. What you basically do is you try to do a survey around the user and accordingly prepare an understanding that what kind of user is this, and do I have a similar user on board. Then what you do is you basically combine the two methods which my friend talked about here, content-based and collaborative. So you don't do only one kind of filtering, you rather do switching between the two based on the context. What you can do with this particular model, basically, we had a research done on a food e-commerce business, and they showed actually that an improvement in accuracy of up to 14.61% could be achieved with such a model. So this is how a typical hybrid model looks like. Complicated, isn't it? So let's simplify it for you. This is the typical flow which we showed, right? And we solved the mass recommendation and changing preferences problem. Well, it's not a problem with an existing user. So if it's just check if it's a new user or not. If it's not, you can go ahead with a classic content-based filtering. You understand your user. Accordingly, you build a personalized content around your user. But what with the cold start? We have not solved that problem yet. With the cold start, basically, you have a new user in place. So in such a case, what we do is, you do a requirement survey on the fly, and you build a user profile accordingly. Have you ever logged on to Netflix as a new user, and you have seen a series of questions being asked to you, like the kind of movies you have watched before, the kind of TV shows you prefer? So what basically it's doing is kind of doing a survey, is building up a profile around you, and accordingly, what it will do is later, it will do a similarity analysis with the existing user database it has. With that, now it is basically ready to do a collaborative filtering, and it will provide a more personalized recommendation to specifically you. It doesn't matter if you're a new user on board. Netflix knows what kind of shows you'd like to watch. So that is how we solve the cold start problem. So, like my friend ended last time, well, is it intelligent enough? So let's ask again, is this intelligent enough? And to understand whether something is intelligent, see, we need to understand that we need to deliver some kind of business outcome with all the kind of models and all kinds of theories we are putting forward, right? So my business outcome over here is I'm an e-commerce business, and I want any user who's coming on board, the particular user I should be able to convert. I should not be giving him or her some irrelevant content so that they don't convert. So the kind of recommendations I'm giving, how close it is to that user preference, and whether they're able to, they're liking that or not. So for that perspective, we have basically two kinds of error metrics, which tells how much are you deviating from the actual preferences the users have. One such is the mean absolute error. If you see, there was a research done again on basically a food e-commerce business, and there they showed that they tried out different kind of content, they tried out different kind of filtering, the traditional filtering which my friend talked about, in silos, they tried in combination. Then what they came up with actually is a smart recommender-based hybrid learning. What it does is it switches between collaborative and content filtering, content-based filtering, based on the kind of user profile you're getting. And it actually showed a significant increase in the error percentage. It dropped from close to 13% to almost 5%. Same thing goes to your mean square error. If you see that the error percentage has actually dropped from 55 to as low as 18%. So what does it mean? What does it mean to us as business people? It means that I have a significantly intelligent recommender system which helps me curate a more personalized content to my users. So let's summarize. See, personalization is a key to business out there. My friend talked about, showed a curve which had the short tail and the long tail. So long tail is ever growing. And how do I ensure that my customer base is actually is able to tap into the long tail as well. So as a businessman, I want to ensure that I capture maximum of the market. So I'm a new business venture. How do I know that my product is reaching out to the customers? Well, a recommender engine can help me reach out to the right kind of customers in the right time. And well, traditional methods have their problems, but we just showed that a hybrid approach can actually lead to an increase in accuracy by almost 15%. So with that, we'd like to sign off. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshata and Suraj, for putting up such a great presentation.